Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of everyone's favorite, the absolute best place to be on a Wednesday morning on the internet, right here at Pitch Practice, the show. We got myself here. And look at our special guest down there, Jackie. What's up, Jackie, the Pitch Practice What's up, everybody?
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Jackie.
Jackie.
Jackie looks like she is ready to get into some practice today. Is Jackie
She's
ready?
ready to practice.
She's
Jackie,
ready.
are you ready to close the deal? Yes, I am. I'm ready to close on some stuff.
You ready? You ready, Jackie? All right. Man, you can tell we're getting into the later months in the year because look, it's I think some mornings we would start off and it would be a little bit dark outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
and here you are.
yeah, and it's still just still same time every morning, but the sun is up. So how is everybody doing out there today? If you're watching, hashtag live if you're watching on the live, hashtag replay if you're catching us on the replay. Did we have some? Yeah, you know what? We had some comments come through for a couple of our last episodes. Uh Specifically about the $1 million speaker.
Okay, I want to hear these.
Yeah, well, the comment, I remember one specific comment that came in, and it was about your opinion about the book.
Ooh, give it to us.
I think someone appreciated your honesty about how you felt about the book. Yeah,
Okay.
I know you didn't see the comment because I don't think you're on that social media platform. Did you see that comment, Brandon? And there was another comment about I think something Brandon said about the book. But yeah, and then someone said, gosh, it's like I can't wait till the next episode. I look forward to this every Wednesday.
Oh,
Yes,
we have
yes.
to get that person on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely let us know because we read your comments. We appreciate your comments, and yeah, that's why we're here. And if you ever want to join us, just don't hesitate. We've got room for you down there. We can fit you in with
Brandon.
fit you in with Brandon. You got room, Brandon?
There's a little bit of room. Not much. We can get you.
Yes, yes. But yeah, so but how's everybody doing? How's everyone doing?
Doing well. Late night last night with fireworks in town, but it was a decent show as always, and managed to get out of there at a decent pace. Usually when you have about a couple hundred cars trying to all leave one little location, can be a pretty big traffic jam. But managed to sneak out and take the back roads home to get home pretty quick.
What time the fireworks end?
So it started about five till 10 or so, and then went till about 20 after. And then yeah, that was it.
Don't you love that? Usually the wait is longer than the fireworks show.
Yeah, by the time we got to the airport where they put them off, I mean, it was packed. We didn't get that close. We ended up in an adjacent field, like in between two rows of crops of soybean that we were parked up in. And yeah, so it was still a good view. We managed to sneak out, which is good.
And what about you, Laura? How did you celebrate America's birthday? Or what is
I went to an actual party that I got invited to, and it was fun because in the last couple weeks I've been getting better at just saying yes to when people invite me. So instead of being like, oh, I'll let you know, like I'll see if I can make it, I'm saying, great, yes, I'm in. Even though I'm like, oh, maybe I would previously maybe have said that. Just being open to being more part of our community here. Because I've lived in Raleigh for 3 years.
Mhm.
And I want to be able to say I can call 50 people in Raleigh and they're all my friends.
Mhm.
So if that's gonna happen, that means I gotta say yes to people that invite me to places. So my boyfriend and I went to this great party and it was hilarious. It was fun.
Uh,
And we put together a charcuterie board.
oh, you did.
Yes, we did. I mean, I
Uh,
ate most of it before showing up to this thing, but it was great. Um, it was great.
it's interesting because you can use Grant's philosophies for business and personal life as well.
In personal life, yeah.
And when you say that, I think about commit first and
Figure the rest out. Yeah.
figure the rest out later.
Yeah. And then the other thing that he says, do you want $1 billion or 1 billion friends? And I'm like, okay. He's like, you actually want both. I'm like, all right, well, I also got to work on the friends side of the equation a little bit harder.
Yeah, and can't wait to see you back more on social media too.
LinkedIn, maybe YouTube, maybe I'll post on YouTube. Are you
How
gonna
long?
dare me that I post one video on YouTube?
You got to
How
start posting somewhere because, as Grant says, if they don't know you, they
they
can't flow
can't
you.
Love
flow?
it.
You got to be the expert in the franchise space, and you got to get your story out there on why you're doing it, and then
Well, it's
you got to
kind of
pitch
funny.
the deal.
It's kind of funny. It's like I was watching this YouTube video and I've been getting into Cody Sanchez a lot. She talks about like buying
Yep.
businesses and business
Mhm.
acquisition. And
Mhm.
it's so practical. I've really enjoyed watching her content. And she talked about how she worked in private equity and how their motto kind of in the background was like, we get rich quietly. And I see how that's a mantra in my own industry, especially in our side. Because like when I mentioned, oh, I know some in franchise sales and consulting. Most people, like if you're a normal person, like every day, they're like,
What's
what the
that?
heck is that? But if you're a consultant or if you work in the franchise industry, you're like, oh wow. So like it's like a gatekeeper kind of industry. So for me, I get that. Like my industry, especially the niche that I work in, it's very like, shh, we get rich very silently here. Like you don't need to be boosting and posting about it. You just need to be doing your job, get better, and there's a lot of money in it. So that's something that's been interesting for me because in my industry, it's a lot of people that are almost twice my age.
Mhm.
Um, which is different than people that are our ages that are like everything we do is a post, 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 post.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. What have you seen any influencers in the space? Like,
No. Yes and no. People that maybe do podcast of somebody that has 50 something franchises, 100 franchises of something, but not one of something or two or something, or a franchise salesperson. Uh, it's like people are legends in their industry, but it's a very quiet kind of back industry. The problem with our industry, it's very heavy regulated with the Federal Trade Commission. So I understand why we almost never want to be quotable on recorded, because what happens in our industry is anything can lead to litigation,
mm,
which means that if it wasn't quotable, it wasn't recorded, there was no email. Great, prove it. The proof is for you to prove it. And it's like, oh, it can't be a he said, she said conversation. And if somebody promised you something, like in the franchise industry, the number one reason franchises get sued, well, one of them from people that own them is what they call claims of success, meaning a salesperson promised or said or mentioned numbers that were a little bit different that was in what is called a franchise disclosure document, as opposed to sticking to the numbers. They said, well, you could probably make way more than that, like millions more. And we have franchises that have done millions, but then it's not on the paper. So if you set that in your quotable and you had it in writing or video.
How did they, I mean, as long as you don't say that, let's say it's you sitting down with someone
We
else.
never say that. We are trained to be on compliance like crazy.
Right. So how can someone claim that you do say that? I mean, with all the training that everybody receives and everyone knows not to make claims, I think when you look at some investments like investment bankers and they are, they're talking about future possible earnings from a investment in a, let's say, whatever stock.
Yeah.
They can never promise returns.
No, nor can we. No one can promise you anything.
Right. Yeah,
No one
especially
can
not
promise
people.
you anything. It's
They
like
can
I'm
only
just showing. I can
ha-
show you what the past performance has looked like. I can't tell you you're gonna make any of these numbers,
exactly.
right?
But this is what others have done that we have solid proof. This is what this person has achieved by following our proven framework.
Yeah,
It,
yeah. So that's why I could see why in my industry it's very hush hush. It's very like you're a good professional, and once you know some secrets of the trade, it's a really high end skill, and it's a very niche skill, as well as you have to understand compliance and law of different states. So most people don't choose to share those things because it's like, why would I make somebody else good at this when I do close the deals, it's like a really nice commission. So it's an industry you could keep going on. And that's why I see people that are twice my age that won't retire. They just won't retire, right? Because like, why would they retire? And why would they let millennials in here add anything different than what they've been doing when they've been cashing in these crazy, amazing checks? It's a very gatekeeper industry. And the reason I say that is because I kind of stumbled up on it through working hard and put myself out there. But I don't think you could just go knock on a door and become a franchise salesperson. You have to understand compliances, rules, regulations, and somebody should guide you through that system, because otherwise you will get in a lot of trouble.
Would you ever consider doing franchise sales, Brandon?
Yeah, I would. I think it's a pretty interesting industry. It's a very high ticket sale, and if you're going to get into sales, you might as well go high ticket. I mean, I did cars for I don't know, since 2011 to I think 2021 was my last car that I sold. In there, I had some insurance sales, but even though I was selling, 30 to $80,000 vehicles, the commissions on them weren't that great because there's not a lot of markup and margin in an automobile as many would think nowadays with the pandemic and things like that. Yeah, you got additional $5,000, $10,000 markups, and that's just pure profit to the dealer right there. But when it comes to the vehicle itself coming from the manufacturer to the dealer, your average F-150 had from invoice minus holdback to MSRP is maybe $4,000, which isn't a lot of money on top of a $80,000 truck. You know
Is
what I
that
mean? It's like you're not
is that
even
4,000 to split between several people, or is that
yes.
profit? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean the $4,000 there, you know, and I say less holdback because the dealer's taking what's called holdback. So they're already cutting um a percentage off of that right off the top that goes into the dealer pocket. So that's protected. So you're left with, you know, maybe $3,000 off that to then split between sales manager, sales guy. Um so they got the two there.
Yeah, but you got to think it about differently. Your deal is in 1 hour, it could be completed.
It could no, not in an hour, 4 hours roughly.
Okay,
I mean,
in 4 hours, right? Cut all everything paste dry in a day. Let's just say a day.
mhm.
In a day, you could probably talk to 4 customers, right? And close that deal. In our end, you got to wait a minimum of 14 days to transact with somebody.
So you
And
just
on top of that, there's lawyers involved. Half of the time there's accountants involved because they want to do things on their end. And it's not even your decision to approve the candidate. This isn't something to be sold. That's why that word award is really used in our space.
Mhm.
Because even though somebody could have a lot of money, they could not be a good fit. Right? Because somebody like, say, Mark, great. Mark's been doing marketing. He knows all about insurance. Now all of a sudden he wants to go and open up a KFC.
yeah. I
Really
want to
well
open up
funded.
KFC. I love
Really
Kentucky
well
Fried.
funded. Is really well funded. But there's something about him that corporate just doesn't want to approve him for. I don't know why. You could have
Oh,
spent all this time with this person and corporate then didn't approve that application.
Yeah, I
wait,
mean,
what is
I get that. Your sales cycle is a little bit longer, so you know,
It's
I
a
get that
longer, it's a new and
you
sales cycle. You got to
it,
plant people's fears,
it's
emotions.
it's it's almost like you're trying to make the argument not to be a franchise consultant. Would you say that, Brandon? Is that the
I,
argument she's
I
making?
I think she's trying to keep people out so she makes more money.
You
No,
think so?
I'm trying to invite people
Because
into the
it's
industry.
like you keep
I'm trying
saying
to,
all of these obstacles about it, right?
no, I'm saying, and it's, look, it's an awesome industry to be in. You should know what you're doing. I've read so much about it. What's helped me even more is I work at a firm where everybody knows what they're doing and they understand compliance laws with states and have a really good manager. I'm talking top of the line manager that is really well versed and invested in me being successful. So if you're going to do it, you need to go to a firm environment, not to a startup 5 environment.
I think I think she's trying to make it sound difficult to challenge you, Brandon.
Brandon, no, I already
I think
promised Brandon that I would teach him if he wanted to.
Um, yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's two different types of sales. You know, when it comes to the higher ticket items, there's usually a longer sales cycle. I mean, you don't buy a house in a day, and you know, houses are 100, 200, you know, $1 million transactions. So I get that. And a car should be purchased in 4 hours or less, I believe. Like you should never have to spend a day out, an entire day at a dealership to buy a car. And that was my average sale time was 4 hours or less. And I told them, I was like, if you're committed to buying this car today and everything's work, I'm going to get you out of here in 4 hours or less. And I'd say 9 out of 10 times happened unless it was a super, super busy day.
what's the longest thing that in the sales cycle is them making a decision or the paperwork?
Paperwork. That's really the longest time. Like once they get to the yes, getting all the docs together and then getting it over to finance for them to submit to the bank. That's usually the longest time because then, you know, finance guy has to get, you know, 50 pieces of paper together for them to sign and get the menu ready and get ready for their presentation. Cause, you know, you go through at least 2 to 3 presentations when you buy a car. So just be be wary of that. You
Well,
go in,
it
you're getting.
depends. It depends.
Well, it does
I
depend
know
on the
when I bought a
dealership.
car. I
It
bought a car this year. I went in there. I'm a weird oddity of a customer. If I like something, I'll just like to move up model. Like I love the Jeep brand. There's something about it I've always loved. So I
Yeah.
went from the Wrangler to the Cherokee, and I already know what's next. I'm gonna go for the Wagoneer.
You must like the what is that they call the Jeep Shake? I think you're a fan of that.
Jeep Wave.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Jeep Wave? Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, depending on the dealership, you could be soups and nuts right there with the same guy that greeted you. And more of the larger dealerships, then you have your different segments. You have the sales guy or consultant on the floor. Then you have the sales manager you may have to deal with if you're not happy with the numbers up front. And then at the end of it, you got to go to the F&I office. The box is what they call it, and sign the paperwork and get sold on the warranties and the tire care and things like that, which I do recommend buying because tires these days are expensive and vehicle quality these days are terrible. So buy the extra warranty.
Mhm.
But everything's negotiable from the price of the car all the way through warranty and even interest rate, depending on state. Florida, it's regulated, so you can't negotiate warranty, but interest rates you can.
Really? I didn't know you could negotiate the interest rates.
That's
Should have had you
that
as a
was
car
just,
advocate.
that was just an epiphany.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but no, I think we were talking about did you know any influencers? And then we got to did you know any influencers in the space? And then Laura started to tell us every reason why there wasn't one.
Well, and these are valid,
Every
right?
reason
These
why
are
there
valid.
wasn't one, and every false belief behind about what she believes the reason is. You got
And that's a fair point.
yeah, huh?
These are probably some really false beliefs.
Well,
And I mean on my end, it's like, well, yeah, why would you put yourself on social media if
we're I mean,
if
think about it.
if you
We're,
don't if there's any question behind it, it could get you in trouble. It's like, that's not worth it.
true.
That
Yeah, true.
that's a fair kind of like, if I have to like always go to a franchise lawyer to say like, is this okay if we post? Is this okay if we post? Then it's, oh yeah, it's $700 before he even got to us and told us, yeah, we could post that.
Yeah. Oh,
But that could be a different strategy. That could be a different strategy.
You're either closing yourself for or you're closing yourself against it. You're either closing yourself for or against it. Whether one or the other is all right or not, it just depends on what has the more convincing argument.
Yep.
You could do it or possibly, take the steps to find out, okay, what can I talk about? What things are off limits? Do I market to other franchise consultants, or is my social media content going to be tailored towards people who want to be in the franchise industry? Am I
Yeah.
going to am I
Why
going
would I saturate my space? That doesn't make any sense for me. I'm not inviting up my own competition. I'm not gonna sever my own arm. That sounds terrible.
If you go
go ahead.
to 1851franchise.com, there is a list of the top franchise influencers of 2023.
And there are
There
franchise
is.
influencers.
Yes.
Okay, go. Okay, who's number one?
All right. Well,
Move on.
I don't know if they're in any particular order, but Megan Allen from Fran Promise. You have Jania Bailey from Fran Net, Wes Barefoot at Path to Freedom, Gary Bauer at Jan Pro, Kevin Banzer at
Those are all franchise consultants.
still
Consultants.
That's still
I agree.
They're an
I agree.
influencer, and you don't have to be a consultant to be an influencer.
True, but here's the thing. they don't have to comply with the same laws that we do.
We're not talking about compliance. You don't have to tell anybody anything. You can say that owning a franchise is the best thing in the world, the best way to get into business.
And you can
Therefore,
break some false beliefs, but just say
True.
with
Yeah.
the caveat that these are, I'm not representing a particular company, or, put your disclosures. Go ahead.
and with that, you can then get the attention of these other influencers to then bring you the deals. Like, you can still state that you help get people awarded that franchise. And
Yes.
if these
Yeah.
people know that, then they'll come to you that way. So you're reaching out to two different type of people.
Let me tell you a little bit about our funnel. We have an entire section of our funnel that does consultant outreach, and then those people work on those relationships, and then there's another side that we just work with those candidates to convert them. That's it. My role is just be on the crazy back to back with those leads. After our consultant team, we have an entire team that's specialized to make relationships with the consultants to then come back to us. So it's basically not my role, and it's not a bad thing that I do network with them, and I often do, but my time is best spent on the phone with already all the leads I have, as opposed to reaching out to future consultants if those consultants are already being followed up on with a whole other team. Does that make sense? I don't get rewarded to make those relationships. I get rewarded to convert the leads they send us.
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to ask you out there listening, what do you think?
What do you think?
Do you think Laura should get on social media more and tell her story and bring more people to starting a business and growing this economy? Or do you want her to sit in a little hole and be a farmer and wait for leads to come in and then close them down? Don't
you love seeing Laura on social media?
You actually, I know, I never even posted that much.
I know. Ever since you went on your social media diet from what was it, November of last year, right?
Thanksgiving was my break period. I was like, delete. I don't miss it. I tell you, I don't miss it. I didn't realize I could have a life without social media. And I've had a social media since I was in middle school.
Wow.
Excuse me.
Wow.
I'm a proponent of it. It's at your leisure if you want to have one. I don't even know. I feel like I wouldn't even know what to post about. I've gotten to that point where I wouldn't even, I use this thing to make money, not to just tell people what I'm eating dinner on.
Do what Grant does.
Yeah. It's oh my gosh, here we are, over 2/3 of the way done, and we haven't even talked about the book. Yeah, this what I wanted to do was actually, because we got into the actual framework of the bits, which is the belief and identity transformation system, and the framework for what Eileen and Joe have studied from preachers listening over hundreds and hundreds of speakers. And this framework is the framework that I think gets your audience involved, right? It gets them it gets them to be an active participant. So what is it? One of the big phrases that was said in this is something like speaking. Okay. I wanted to ask you guys this question. Remember, I wanted to ask you, if you went back to college, what areas would you concentrate on? But we might not get this on this, but we were really talking about how not to be boring in your speeches, and you do that by there was a good, what was that? Oh, it was
The Anastasia and yeah.
they are anesthetized to the compromised position that they are in. But the other phrase that I mentioned that I thought was really good is that we might be living in the information age, but we're in the transformation business. And it was just a really good examples of how they take this bit system and they've used it to write this book.
Yeah, and if you read any book that kind of promises that, I guess, the type of results that they're promising if you follow the system, they are all set up in the same pattern. From .com, expert, traffic, especially expert, but then traffic, and then magnetic marketing, 10x rule. I'm trying to think of all the other books that are not first or last, sell or be sold. They always start off with the story of the author, their transformation, or their hero's true journey or whatever, and then they start asking you to start thinking the same way that they're thinking.
Yeah, and they tell it in a story format, and they gave 4 examples of stories that you could use, because I know there's some people, there's another false belief. Think about that false belief. I hear that false belief sometimes is, well, what story do I tell?
Yeah, I don't have a story.
I don't have a story. And then here is that answer to that. You could tell a story from your personal life. You could tell a client story. You could tell a story from history, or you could tell a parable or metaphor. It's like hidden within these words are little belief transforming stories that are hitting on some of those false beliefs that you might have, that people might have about going into being a speaker. And we're like just 4 minutes left in this in the live today. So we'll just end it by I guess either answer the question or tell us your biggest point from this chapter, your biggest takeaway from what we went over today.
So if I were to go back to college, what I would change different is I definitely would party. I definitely would. I would party more. I would be more social. I kept it PG for you.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
No, because I can tell you my first college night out experience was Halloween. I went to Kent State University, and we were walking out downtown, and I was with a group of my dorm mates, I guess you want to call them that, and walking down the street, and all of a sudden this young lady grabs me by the arm and was like, "Hey, come back to my room, I forgot my cell phone." I'm like, yeah, probably not gonna do that. I was dating somebody at the time, but yeah, so I would have not dated anybody.
Said yeah.
Yeah, I would have said yeah. That's probably what I would have changed. I would have been more sociable
version.
That's the PG version. I would have been more sociable. I just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, and then you would have had that time to sort of really build up the reps. All right, cool.
Yeah, literally reps, right?
Laura?
Yeah, I would have gotten more involved with the fundraising side of it. I was a little bit involved with it, but I didn't understand it. So, one of the biggest reasons why I want to be a salesperson, why I've been in this industry in the sales world, is so I could become a great fundraiser. I would have spent more time investing in all the people that were high fundraisers for the school, and started understanding what they do and why they do more. And that's something I'm still gonna do, just so then as a student, it could have been a different conversation to have and a different way to start thinking of potential future industries to go into. So what I would have changed is I would have spent more time out in the community with anybody that's ever fundraised money for that school, to then decide industries I wanted to go and follow, and tell them some massive goals I wanted to have in the fundraising space. And then they could backwards teach me all that.
Yes, yes. Awesome. As we bring this episode to a close, well, my answer, what if I went back to college again, I think I would do something similar. I'd concentrate on learning to sell and well, he says write and to speak before an audience, but I would learn more to write and speak on sales. That's what I would. So
Yeah.
our question to you out there listening as we end this episode, if you went back to college again, what would you do differently? What would you concentrate on? Just put it down in the comments. And if you comment, we'll read them out loud right here on next week's episode of Pitch Practice the Show. We still have at least one more week of this book, and then hopefully we'll be able to announce our next book. Sounds great.
See y'all soon. Close the deal.
See you next week.
Get into a gatekeeper industry where people silently get rich.
Let's convince more people to go into your field, Laura. Oh, you don't want competition.
Let's convince them.
Hey, take